Hey everyone, welcome to the video. I'm North Central, and as you can tell from behind me here, we are once again among the tombstones. Now this is Holy Crosse Cemetery just outside Fairmont, West Virginia. And there's a very special young man that is buried here. And we're gonna find him and pay a little honor to him, a little respect. His name is Ambrogio Campanelli, and an Italian immigrant, a World War I veteran, and unfortunately his life was taken from him rather suddenly in 1927, April 30th, at the Everettville mine disaster, the federal number 3 mine, coal mine. So let's get started, and I'll tell you a little bit about this as we look at some of these beautiful graves that are up here. So it's 1927, and 1927 is part of the Roaring 20s. Let me see if I can't scooch up here real neat. Life is pretty good in the country. Stock market's up, people making money. The big cities are starting to build up, which means that they need steel. And with needing steel, the Pittsburgh steel factories, which are really not that far away from here, just a few hours, Frank Vigina, born April 30th, 1909, died in 1931 during the Depression. Pittsburgh's really not that far from here, and the Pittsburgh steel factories are producing as much steel as they can, and they're also, in producing that steel, producing or using as much coal as they can, which brings us to Ambrogio, who is a coal miner. So in the 1920s, coal mines are definitely a harsh environment, to say the least. They have a lot of coal dust in the air, and the owners of this particular mine, the Everettville mine, always said that the reason they didn't have more ventilation to take care of the coal dust is because it's a wet mine. And wet mine meaning there's water, a lot of water, or more water than normal maybe. And they didn't need it because there wasn't a lot of coal dust. Well, unfortunately, coal dust and methane gas is always a problem in a mine. Of course, nowadays we know that, we have federal inspectors that go in and make sure of this kind of thing. But back in the 20s, that didn't really exist. And the owners of the mines, I'm not talking about just Everettville, but this is most coal mines, they wanted to produce as much coal as they could. And one way that they would do that is by segregation. So the whites, they didn't want them talking to the blacks. The blacks, they didn't want talking to the Italians. The Germans, they didn't want talking to the whites or the Italians or the blacks, and so on and so forth. Okay, you get the point. They wanted to keep everybody segregated away from each other. That way, nobody could talk and nobody could kind of unionize, okay? Because if they would talk and they would become unionized, well, that would be bad for the mines. So they used segregation. Another thing that they did is they would go and not pay per hour. They would pay the miners per ton that they would mine. So it encouraged the miners to overlook safety and encourage the miners. Salvador Ferresi, 1859 to 1929. It encouraged the miners to overlook safety as well as try and produce as much coal, dig as much coal, because they got paid by the ton per day. So where's Ambrogio? See if I can't scooch up between these two. I don't speak Italian, but that's Tony Domastro, born 1920 or died 1929. Rest in peace. Lots and lots of pictures on all these graves. So this one's kind of neat. If you look at it really close, it almost looks like somebody has photocropped his head and put him on a drawn-in body. The bow tie almost looks like it's been drawn on. It's interesting. But that's Sam Samino, born June 13th, 1880, died June 5th, 1929. 1929, by the way, is the year that we had the stock market crash, and after that, a decade-long Great Depression. But right now, it's 1927, and life is good, right? It's the roaring 20s. Let's do a couple more here. So I don't know what language this is. Here's that young man. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name and talk about this. It does talk about 4 states, West Virginia. I don't know. I don't know. Looks like he was born in 1892 and died in 1927. The 18th of Veljace, whatever that is. Don't know what language that is. If you do, maybe put it in the comments. It's a very interesting cemetery. I love coming here and seeing the old pictures and the old stones. So I've found Mr. Campanelli's gravesite here. We're gonna make our way over to it. Man, there's just so many graves. It's got so many. I see some American flags down here. Let's go down here first. So here's Paul W. France, West Virginia Tech 5 Cavalry, World War II, September 28th, 1923, December 17th, 1944. 1944, he may have died in service. He has a beautiful, now let me see if I can't get a better picture of it over here. A beautiful American Legion plaque with a flag. Thank you for your service, sir, and your sacrifice. There's a lot of young deaths around the time. There's another one. It's Alfonso Ombola, Rambolla, born 1976, died 1927. And this is the reason why I don't like touching these. See this crack here? You know, you put a little bit of pressure on this and that could very well just topple right off, right? And you know, this stone's been here for quite some time. Let's leave them in place. Let's let them be here. So there's a grave here. It's unmarked. Don't know. And there's graves all down through here. You can see where the ground is sunk in, and over here, and over here. These are what we call paupers' graves. There's no headstones. They're a poor man's graves, more or less. And the family either couldn't put a headstone or whatever. So, but you know, they died and they buried the bodies as best they could. Shame. Here's one. The picture's really starting to fade. Got a cup there. This is a big stone. I mean, this is as tall as I am. This is 6 foot. Pasquale Rambolla, born at Italy, April 15, 1883. Died at Louisville, West Virginia, July 31st, 1923. I mean, these are all immigrants, guys. I mean, think about how scary that would have been to pick up yourself and everything that you know and head to the new world, so to speak, for a better life. Again, graves. Trying to walk in between the headstones here. Okay, yeah, this is a baby. It is fairly old. So there it is. It's really worn and kind of bad. And I bet that might be in his death state. Jacob, son of Emma Ford, September 5th, 1918, October 30th, 1919. So less than a year. You know, it's back in the time of the early 1900s and 1920s and 30s. You know, it was rough. You know, they didn't have a lot of vaccines and stuff like that. You know, it could have been just complications. It could have been yellow fever. It could have been any number of viruses or diseases. There really wasn't any cures for anything like there are now. Cholera, who knows? Okay, let's go over here and let's see Ambrogio. And here we are. I'm gonna get the camera set up. All right, everybody, this is Ambrogio Campanelli's grave and headstone, and beautiful headstone. It's about 7 feet high at its tallest, definitely about a foot taller than I am, and it does have a very large picture of him, and we're gonna go up and take a look at that right now. And if you look very closely, right here, it does say, I believe, U.S. So he was in the United States Army, fighting in World War I for his new country, because he was born in 1894 in Italy. Now, I don't know exactly when he came over or how he came over, but he obviously did. And he went to war for our country. So that is an instant bond between him and I, and the reason why I really wanted to do this, to tell you about the Everettville mine explosion a little bit and about Ambrogio.
April 30th, 1927, there was a massive explosion deep within the Everettville mine. Records say a piece of machinery let out a spark, which ignited methane gas and coal dust, which carried the explosion through most of the mine. It's believed that somewhere around 83 men lost their lives almost instantly. A few men from deep within the mine that lived through the explosion only made it a few hundred feet before they were overcome with bad air. A small group of men did manage to barricade themselves in a small portion of the mine, but they were deep inside, and they were overcome within a few hours. Only 9 men survived the mine that dreadful day. They were working fairly close to the entrance. In all, it's estimated that 111 men lost their lives due to the explosion.
On Find a Grave, I never really found anything, no death certificate or anything like that. I don't know if he was married. I know he was around 30 years old. But that's really it. But he is not forgotten, because I will definitely remember him. Rest in peace, Ambrogio Campanelli. Thank you for your service and your sacrifice, young man. So there was another gentleman that is buried here that died in the Everettville mine disaster, Patrick J Brennan. We don't know the date that he was born. He was from England, or born in England, and died, of course, April 30th, 1927 in the Everettville mine disaster. On Find a Grave, it doesn't have a location of his grave, and it doesn't have a picture of his tombstone, and it doesn't even have any type of death certificate or anything like that. So I'm assuming that he was given a pauper's burial, but he is here in this cemetery somewhere. So if you can hear me, Patrick, rest in peace. There's a very large picture up here that we're gonna mosey our way over to quickly. And that'll be the last one, and then we're gonna wrap this up. Beautiful stones, beautiful stones. Costanza Spatafor, August 7th, 1887, October 28th, 1918. Pretty young lady. Rest in peace. All right, guys, so that's going to be a wrap. This is really a beautiful cemetery. It is the Holy Crosse Cemetery in Fairmont, West Virginia. A lot of beautiful stonework here, nice looking statues. It's very, very quiet, very nice. So that's a wrap, and I'm North Central. Until next time, thanks for watching.